There's a moment in every transformational journey when everything suddenly feels meaningless, when your efforts seem too tiny to create any real impact. You sip a glass of water, meditate for 5 minutes, choose a short walk instead of scrolling, and life still doesn't transform overnight. So you start questioning, does any of this even matter? But here's the part no one ever explained. The field doesn't evaluate your transformation by speed. It reads the steadiness of your signal, which means every small habit, every microscopic act of alignment is sending subtle waves through your quantum field, whether you notice them or not. This is the quantum ripple effect, the reminder that no action happens in a vacuum. Every decision, no matter how tiny, sets off a chain of energetic reactions. And those reactions aren't only personal, they're vibrational. They transmit instructions to your future, to the people who will cross your path, to the opportunities headed your way in ways you can't foresee. Imagine standing beside a huge, motionless lake. You drop a single pebble, light, unremarkable. The surface ripples outward, stretching quietly in all directions. You don't direct where the waves travel, but they travel. They move. They touch everything. That's what unfolds every time you take an action aligned with the person you're becoming, no matter how insignificant it seems. One glass of water, one journal sentence, one quiet pause before reacting, one moment of self-respect. The universe doesn't grade the size of the action. It registers the frequency carried within it. And here's the piece most people overlook. The field is never ignoring you. It's simply responding at the level of your vibration, and, most importantly, at the level of your steadiness. It isn't intensity that matters, it's coherence. It's not that one healthy meal that changes your biology. It's the ripple formed when that action is repeated, trusted, and experienced with presence. Over time, those ripples overlap. They merge into a new wave. And that wave carries you into a timeline you could never reach by force alone. Let's bring this into your day. You wake up tomorrow and decide, not dramatically, not ceremonially, just quietly, that you'll sit for 3 minutes in stillness before the day begins. Not to get enlightened, not to manifest a mansion, simply to be with yourself. That simple moment creates a ripple. You begin your morning a little more centered. Maybe you don't snap at your partner the way you normally might. Maybe you choose a healthier breakfast. Maybe that gives you clearer thinking at work. And unexpectedly, an idea arrives. You send the email you'd been avoiding. Someone replies. A door opens. Yet none of this was visible from the starting point. It didn't appear as if your future was shifting, but it was. This is the paradox. The biggest transformations often hide inside the smallest behaviors, because those behaviors, repeated with awareness, rewire how you communicate with the field. And the field, always aware, always responsive, begins reorganizing itself around your upgraded frequency. We've been taught that change comes through leaps, dramatic choices, breakdowns, and breakthroughs. But quantum reality isn't fueled by theatrics. It operates through vibration, subtle tuning, choosing a new timeline before there's evidence it's working. This is what habits truly are. Not routines, not productivity systems. They are daily statements of identity. They're how you communicate to the field who you've chosen to be. And if you maintain that signal long enough, reality eventually reshapes itself to match it. This is why nothing you do is ever wasted. No breath, no step, no tiny moment of alignment. Every one is a pebble. Every one creates a ripple. Every ripple is forming a lake you cannot yet see. And the real shift begins when you stop hunting for instant results and start trusting the quantum law of compounded vibration. Because eventually, those ripples build into a wave so powerful, it lifts you out of the version of reality you once believed you were trapped in. So if you've been waiting for a massive breakthrough, pause, breathe, and drop a new pebble today. That sip of water, that stretch, that single paragraph from the book you've been avoiding, that 90-second meditation, that tiny choice, is not insignificant. It is a quantum command, a signal declaring, "This is who I am now." And the universe always responds to identity spoken through frequency. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how these unseen waves of habit sculpt your life in ways far more powerful than effort ever could. You'll see why your most sacred rituals are often the smallest, and you'll discover how to turn your daily life into a landscape of quantum alignment, one subtle ripple at a time. There's a quiet kind of magic hidden inside the ordinary, but only if you know how to notice it. The way you brush your teeth, the way you pour your coffee, the way you speak to yourself before anyone else has the chance to. These moments don't appear powerful. They don't feel spiritual. But in the quantum sense, they are, because every tiny behavior is a transmission, and your field is paying attention even when your mind isn't. Modern science labels this habit stacking or behavioral anchoring, but in the quantum dimension, we call it vibrational sequencing. It's the unseen network of microactions that either bring you into coherence or drift you toward entropy. And that alignment, or dissonance, accumulates over time, not in dramatic bursts, but in soft, almost unnoticed layers. You wake up late, you skip the breath, you reach for your phone, your nervous system tightens. You step into the energy of your day already slightly off-center. You feel behind, scattered, irritable. And even when you try correcting the day later with affirmations or a healthy meal or a short meditation, it doesn't fully shift. Why? Because the ripple already started. The sequence is in motion. But now imagine this. Same morning, but you wake and place both feet on the floor with presence. You pause. You breathe. You whisper something kind to yourself. Today, I choose alignment. You drink your water intentionally. You listen, not to the noise outside, but to your own body. With that small adjustment, you've changed your trajectory not only emotionally, but energetically. The ripple you just set off won't just smooth your morning. It could redirect an opportunity arriving 5 days from now. You just altered the timeline without force. You just practiced the quantum butterfly effect, and it began with your routine. It's not randomness, it's resonance. The quantum field doesn't respond to magnitude, it responds to precision. And that's the truth that recalibrates everything. You don't need to do more to create change. You simply need to stop scattering your energy. You need to collapse coherence into the exact moment you're in. Because it's not the action itself that creates impact. It's how whole and present you are while doing it. Let's bring it closer. Have you noticed how when you skip your morning workout, your food choices shift? Or when you oversleep, you talk to yourself with a sharper tone? Or when you skip journaling, you react more strongly during conversations or meetings? These aren't random events. They're energetic cascades. Your system is trying to function from a lower frequency, and it compensates in fractured ways. The truth is, there is no standalone habit. Every action influences the next. Every vibration threads itself into what follows. Every choice becomes a tuning fork for the field you step into. And here's what most people overlook. They think they need one breakthrough habit, the big one that changes everything. But in quantum reality, it's not the big thing, it's the first thing. The anchor, the spark that recalibrates the next dozen micro-choices you make. That's why your morning is sacred. Not because it's fashionable to have a morning routine, but because your very first wave of frequency shapes the tone of your entire day's interaction with the field. If your opening action is chaotic, the field mirrors chaos. If it's grounded, the field mirrors clarity. It's not spiritual punishment, it's physics. This doesn't mean your morning must begin flawlessly. You don't need to meditate for an hour on a mountaintop. You don't need green juice or Himalayan salt lamps. What you need is a conscious entry into the field of your own life. And that can be 30 seconds, one breath, one honest sentence. And the compounding effect, that's where the miracles unfold, because that single moment of morning presence makes you just a bit more aware during your next meal. That awareness while eating gives you enough clarity to handle a conversation with less ego. That smoother interaction shifts your mood for the afternoon, which shifts your choice to finally make that phone call, which opens a new door. And that door changes everything. Not because you forced it, but because you planted it. And it began with how you looked at your coffee. This is the secret sacrality of daily life. And the quantum ripple effect isn't mystical, it's mechanical. It's how the universe magnifies what you embody. Not eventually, instantly. But the field holds no opinion. It simply reflects. It simply echoes. It simply aligns itself with whatever you supply most consistently. So the real question becomes, what are you sending? In the next few minutes, we'll explore what unfolds when those ripples are repeated, refined, and trusted, not just for a week, but as a new way of being. You'll see how the tiny becomes magnetic, how the unseen becomes inevitable, and how your smallest choices become the foundation of your future self. You don't need a revolution. You need a rhythm so true, so subtle, and so steady that the quantum field has no choice but to take you seriously. Because what you repeat with presence becomes sacred, and what becomes sacred reshapes your reality. Let's dissolve the myth of go big or go home. In quantum terms, going small with coherence will always outperform going big with chaos. Because in the field, alignment multiplies. And sometimes what seems like the smallest shift is actually the loudest signal you can transmit to the universe. You don't need to blindly believe this, you just need to remember it. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who felt she'd lost her creativity. Years had passed since she'd written anything. Every time she tried to begin again, she felt overwhelmed. I can't write a book. I don't have time. I don't even know where to begin, she'd say. So she didn't. For 5 years, the desire stayed quiet until one day she made a promise. 5 minutes of journaling a day. Just 5 minutes. No expectations, no goals. The first week it felt useless. The second, she noticed her language shift. By the third, something cracked open. Ideas flowed. Old energy moved. Within a year, she'd completed a manuscript. Today, she's a published author and her words reached thousands, all because she made the small sacred. There was another man who felt out of shape, disconnected from his body, ashamed of how far he drifted. He didn't buy equipment, he didn't hire a trainer, he simply started walking. 10 minutes a day, rain or shine, shoes on, music low, movement honest. Not to lose weight, not to impress anyone, but because his body was tired of waiting for the perfect plan. That tiny daily walk became 30 minutes. Then he added more water, then better food choices. 2 years later, not only had he transformed physically, he began coaching others to do the same, not through pressure, but through presence. And then there was the young woman who stopped buying her daily latte, not out of guilt, but because she wanted to teach herself that redirecting energy mattered. Every day she transferred that $6 into a savings app. She watched it grow, not just in money, but in confidence. That habit led her to learn about investing, shift her spending identity, and eventually build enough capital to launch her dream business. All from one small decision, repeated with clarity.
What do these stories have in common? None of them began with perfection. They began with a decision, a choice to anchor energy into form, not once, but over and over again. Because in the quantum field, consistency becomes identity, and identity is what collapses potential into reality. The mistake most people make is waiting to feel motivated. But motivation is unreliable. It's loud, it's flashy, and it fades quickly. Sacred habits don't depend on motivation. They depend on meaning. You give your habit meaning by choosing it even when it doesn't feel impressive, especially when it doesn't. That's when it becomes part of your energetic signature. The universe isn't counting how many actions you complete. It's attuning itself to your rhythm. So the question becomes, can you be trusted with the small? Because if you can, the field will trust you with the big. There's a reason ancient spiritual practices revolve around repetition, chanting, breathwork, lighting candles, bowing. It's not the motion itself, it's the frequency it carries. The way it says, I remember who I am, I return again, I choose again. Over time, that becomes a gravitational pull. You become a timeline magnet. This is why your 5-minute meditation isn't meaningless, why your hydration matters, why pausing before reacting is quantum work. Because every act is a ripple, every ripple a recalibration, and each recalibration brings you closer to the version of you who already exists, the one who lives not in intensity, but in vibrational sovereignty. So if you're still waiting for a major breakthrough, look smaller. The portal might look like a walk around the block, a conscious breath before sending that email, a journal entry even when your mind whispers, "What's the point?" And in the next few minutes, you'll learn how to identify the exact ripple that unlocks your next level, your quantum trigger, and how to repeat it with intention, frequency, and grace. Because your next shift won't arrive with fireworks. It will slip in quietly, like a whisper, a rhythm, a pebble touching the lake. You're not lazy. You're not inconsistent. You're not broken. You're simply wired, like most humans, to underestimate the invisible power of repetition. We've been conditioned to chase transformation through extremes, big gestures, loud choices, dramatic pivots. But real transformation is subtle. It happens where no one applauds. It happens in the signal you emit when nobody's watching. And that signal is encoded into your habits. Not the ones you practice when you're inspired, but the ones you honor when nothing feels magical. This is where the idea of the quantum trigger enters. Traditional productivity treats habits as isolated behaviors. Quantum habits are vibrational keys. They're not just routines. They are tuning forks that recalibrate your field. They are not just what you do, but how you do it and who you are while doing it. A quantum trigger is a micro-action that, when repeated with coherence, unlocks momentum across timelines. It's not about doing more. It's about engaging the right small action at the right frequency until reality responds. You don't need to reinvent your entire life. You need to find your quantum ignition point. One habit, one ripple, one anchor that, when honored daily, shifts the gravitational center of your being. So how do you find it? You begin by observing yourself gently, without judgment. You pay attention to what gives you energy, not stimulation, not a dopamine hit, but true resonance. Maybe it's a 60-second breath before checking your phone. Maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for before bed. Maybe it's placing your hand on your heart and speaking your new identity out loud. These aren't tasks. They're vibrational anchors. They're not about discipline. They're about declaration. Let me tell you what most people misunderstand. They think their issue is inconsistency, but the truth is they've simply never chosen a habit that felt alive, a habit that's more than obligation, a habit that feels like meeting your higher self again. That's what a quantum trigger is. It's a doorway. And once opened, it doesn't just shift your next 5 minutes, it reshapes the energetic architecture of your entire life. Now, here's where most people give up. They start the habit, they feel the spark, but after a few days, life grows noisy again. Old patterns whisper. The mind says, "This isn't working," and they quit. Not because they lack strength, but because they've been conditioned to expect instant proof. But in the quantum realm, the ripple exists long before the wave is visible. That's why the sacred practice of building quantum habits isn't just action, it's trust. It's holding the signal long enough for the field to align with it. And if you're wondering, is 1 minute enough? Let me make this clear. 1 minute of full presence is far more potent than 10 hours of unconscious motion. 1 minute lived with awareness can change your trajectory because in that moment you are no longer reacting, you are creating. You are not asking for change, you are becoming it. So if overwhelm has kept you stuck, stop reaching for more. Focus on smaller, deeper shifts. Here's a starting ritual. Pick one habit that takes less than 2 minutes, one that aligns with the version of yourself you're becoming. And then ask, can I do this today as if it already matters? Can I show up to this small act as if it's sacred? If the answer is yes, you've just activated your ripple. Repeat it tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Not for results, but for resonance. Because when the field senses consistency without desperation, it opens. That's when timelines bend. That's when synchronicities increase. That's when you become a vibrational match to a future that once felt out of reach. And if you're ready to anchor this, I invite you to commit it to the field right now. Comment below. One small shift, one big ripple. Let that be your declaration to yourself, to the field, to the future version of you who already lives in that ripple. Let your comment carry the weight of your next decision. Let it be the first wave in a reality already forming around you. Because you don't need to move mountains, you just need to move your signal. And that begins with one small, sacred action repeated until the universe echoes it back. In the next few minutes, we'll explore this ripple more deeply, showing how the field doesn't measure what you do, but how you hold what you do, and how your frequency, not your effort, becomes the language through which your reality responds. There is no silent action. No gesture is truly invisible. Every moment you live, the field listens. It doesn't need your words. It doesn't respond to your hustle. It only reads frequency, and the frequency of your habits, choices, and micro-decisions. That is the real language of creation. We often assume the universe notices us only when we shout, when we cry out, when we finally act big enough to deserve a response. But the truth is far more subtle. The quantum field isn't looking for drama. It's tuning into coherence. And coherence isn't loud. It's precise. It's grounded. It's consistent. So when you pause before reacting, the field notes it. When you replace gossip with silence, the field expands. When you choose presence over distraction or gratitude over complaint, the field shifts. These moments might feel unimpressive to the ego, but to the quantum fabric of your life, they are tectonic. Why? Because the field doesn't follow intensity, it follows integrity. Your reality doesn't shift when you try harder. It shifts when your signal stabilizes. And that stability is built through repetition, not of motion alone, but of alignment. Repetition of becoming the version of yourself who no longer needs outside validation to sustain an inner frequency. This is where we begin to grasp the deeper spiritual mechanics behind the quantum ripple effect. It's not just about doing small actions each day. It's about being someone real in every moment. Not perfect, not enlightened, but honest, present, and attuned. That's what the field responds to. Not effort, but embodiment. Let's make this practical. Imagine someone who spends 10 minutes each morning reciting affirmations with tension in their body, checking their phone between lines, worrying if it's working. They may be saying all the right words, but their field signals dissonance. Now imagine someone else who stands still for a full minute each morning, hand on heart, breathing into gratitude without needing to perform.
Their action may be small, but their frequency is unmistakable. The second person will collapse a more aligned reality, not because they did more, but because their signal was coherent. This is the paradox of quantum manifestation. The field responds faster to those who aren't attached to outcomes. Why? Because attachment creates static. It clogs the wave with doubt. But presence, true, consistent presence, amplifies clarity. And clarity collapses potential into form. Here's the truth you've always known, even if you've forgotten it. You are already broadcasting. The question is, what is your signal saying? Are you telling the field, I don't trust this, I need proof, I'll believe it when I see it? Or are you saying, I am here, I remember, I am aligned? No matter what appears, the ripple effect begins inside that choice. The subtle, sacred choice to stay with your truth even when the world offers no applause. Especially then, because that is when the field begins to echo your inner state with external shifts. And those shifts may not arrive in fireworks. They may show up as quiet clarity, a release of tension, a small grace, a door that opens silently. But make no mistake, they are coming. The field is always listening. It listens to how you brush your teeth, how you breathe before speaking, how you enter a room, how you care for your body when no one's watching. It listens when you choose not to scroll, when you drink water with intention, when you stop apologizing for your light. These aren't lifestyle choices. These are instructions to the field. And the more precise your instructions become, not through force, but through authenticity, the more magnetic your field grows. That's when people say, I don't know what it is about you, but something shifted. That something is coherence. That something is quantum. So if you've ever wondered, why isn't it working yet? Ask not what you're doing, ask how you are being. Ask if your habits carry the signature of your future self or the residue of your old story. And if it's still unclear, remember this: the field is not testing you, it's attuning you. It's not withholding, it's preparing. It's not ignoring, it's mirroring. You don't need more evidence, you need more presence. In the next few minutes, we'll return to the origin of the ripple, your daily now, and visualize the future self who already exists because of these choices. The legacy that begins when you stop performing and start vibrating as the one who already knows. Every wave you've ever sent into the field still echoes. Not one act of alignment has been lost, not one breath of presence ignored. Even the moments you thought were wasted, the days you failed, the steps you skipped, the mornings you woke numb, they were not the end. They were part of the ripple, part of the rhythm, a reminder that your becoming is non-linear but certain. Legacy doesn't begin when the world notices you. It begins when you see yourself clearly, again and again, through the tiny, repeated lens of sacred choice. This is the moment you realize your reality has never been random. It has always been an echo of what you practiced, quietly, consistently, vibrationally. There is a version of you in a future so real it is already calling you. One who doesn't need to force, doesn't seek proof, doesn't rush the process. That version of you doesn't react, they resonate. They don't beg the universe for alignment, they are the alignment. And every small choice you make now, every conscious act, every micro habit of coherence is a message to that self. I'm coming, I remember, I am arriving.
But what happens if you stop sending that signal? If you forget your power and let the old noise take over? Nothing is broken. You don't start over. You just pause the wave. And the moment you return to presence, it resumes. This is the quantum gift of rhythm. It doesn't require perfection, only return, remembrance, presence. So if you've ever doubted whether your small habits matter or felt your actions are too insignificant to shift anything, let this be your remembering. Every sip of water in gratitude, every breath before speaking, every choice to stretch instead of scroll, every unseen step, they are not small. They are seeds planted in the field, watered with frequency, destined to bloom in futures your current self can't yet imagine. Because the version of you who already succeeded wasn't born from a single breakthrough. They were shaped by waves, tiny, sacred, invisible ripples that began here, right now. And if you feel ready to deepen that shift, not through force, but through vibration, there's a portal waiting. It's not just a book, it's a frequency tool. Awaken Your Quantum Power was created for this exact moment in your journey, not simply to give more information, but to activate your knowing. Inside, you'll find 7 quantum shifts designed to align your habits, identity, and frequency with the future you've always sensed was possible. Not through pressure, but through precision. This is not something to rush, it's something to receive. The link to explore it is in the pinned comment below. This is your invitation to take everything we've explored here and crystallize it into practice. But before you go, take one more breath. Place your hand on your heart. Remember, you're not building your life from scratch. You are remembering it into form, one ripple at a time, one sacred habit at a time, one signal at a time. This is not self-help. This is quantum identity. This is not a routine, it's your resonance. And your resonance is your reality. Comment below. One small shift, one big ripple. Let the field feel your choice. Let the universe reflect your signal.